This is the itel S18. Now, if you want to get an elderly person or maybe a child, a kid, a smartphone that gives them this immersive smartphone experience while performing the basic mobile computing tasks efficiently, then the itel S18 is something you should definitely take a look at. For the base unit of the itel S18 here, you can get a 4G connectivity, which isn't something we saw on the itel S17 from last year. So that's definitely an upgrade. And this smartphone retails for 62,000 Naira, which is roughly $85, meaning this doesn't break the bank and it's really affordable for what it does offer. Also, there's definitely a reason why the itel S series lineup is one of the most sought after lineups from itel. I know you want to find out, and so without taking much of your time, yo guys, let's get started. On opening the box of the itel S18, which I have here, you get to see the SIM ejector, which is on this wrap here. You see a TPU case, a hard TPU case which protects your smartphone, a light film screen protector to protect your screen, but I think you should go for the harder screen protectors, like if you want a better protection for your screen here, but you have something out of the box. You also get to see a pair of wired earphones, which are in red, the itel red color here, something you don't find in this high-end devices anymore. You get a USB-A to micro USB connector. I don't know if I should complain about this, but this is a budget segment and this is something you find on other devices around this price point. You find a 10-watt charger from within this box. It takes about 3 hours to charge this from 0 to 100, but 10 watts charging, no fast charging feature on the itel S18. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about the design on this device. You have this textured looking, I don't know if you guys can see it, textured looking rear on this back, but actually this isn't a textured rear when you run your hands across this rear. The major thing I like about the design is the boxy finish, which gives you a better grip when you hold this in hand. But guys, when you turn the smartphone upside down, does this camera design remind you of Mickey Mouse? Well, that's by the way. You have a fingerprint scanner at the rear with this itel branding to the bottom of this rear here. At the bottom side, you have a 3.5mm headphone jack, mouthpiece opening, a micro USB port, and the down-firing speakers which sound a little bit tiny in my opinion. The right side gives you the volume rockers and the power key here. And that's about the I/O port you get from the itel S18. Not forgetting the dual SIM tray with a dedicated micro SD card slot to the left side of the smartphone. Now over to the front side, you find the display here, which has this teardrop notch, which is actually dated, but for the price, this is basically what you should expect and get from devices like this. Now in my opinion, there's nothing really to complain about when you talk about the display. You have a 6.6-inch LCD panel here which refreshes at 60 Hz, something which is basically what you should expect for this price range. It is really good for indoor use, but one thing I can complain about is the fact that when you take it outside, you should experience difficulty using this under direct sunlight outside, but basically for indoor use, I think this smartphone is usable. When it comes to the performance on the itel S18, I wouldn't say this is the worst or the best smartphone there is for the price, but it performs on par with the competition. Now, powering this device is the UNISOC SC9863A1 processor, if I remember that correctly. And this is paired with 2 gigs of RAM, which is expandable to 4 gigs using the virtual memory expansion feature. And that should come in a software update. But other than that, you have 64 gigs of internal storage on this device. And when it comes to the daily computing tasks on mobile smartphones like this one, this should basically work through those kind of activities without a hassle. But the only place you begin to notice the lags and stutters is when you want to use the smartphone to play heavy titles like PUBG. But that's not what this smartphone is targeted at. In fact, the segment of people who would end up purchasing this device are not looking at gaming with their devices, but are actually looking out for affordability and reliability in devices like this one. And that brings me to the battery life you get from this device. You get a 5000 mAh battery powering this device, and that should take you into the next day, almost 2 days of use. That should actually depend on how you use this device. It doesn't have the fastest charging system here. It takes you over 3 hours to charge from 0 to 100 with this 10-watt charger included in the box. But basically, this is something you should charge over the night and use it for 1 to 2 days depending on your use scenario. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the OS you get from the itel S18. Now you get Android 12 on this device, and this skin you find on the itel S18 here is beginning to look like something you find on Infinix devices. And that means that itel is beginning to morph their UI and OS into something that feels like an Infinix device, which isn't something I have particularly seen on itel devices. This is actually new. When it comes to the cameras on the itel S18, you can see a triple camera setup at the rear, but the 2 cameras at the bottom are not the major thing here, as they are the AI and low light cameras. The major camera here is an 8 megapixel sensor, and also the front facing camera on the itel S18 is an 8 megapixel sensor. And as far as the photos that come from the itel S18, they are really usable, especially when you have good lighting. And that's about the case for the rest of the smartphones out there. But when it comes to low lights photos, you don't get the best from the itel S18. You need ample lighting to get the best out of this camera system on the smartphone. Honestly, I wasn't expecting a lot, especially for the price at which you get the itel S18. You guys should tell me what you think about the photos you're seeing right now on the screen. Is this something you can take for 62,000 naira? Let me know in the comment section below. So conclusively, the itel S18 is a decent smartphone for the price. You know, the notable upgrades include the 4G connectivity we get this year on the S18, which wasn't on the S17 from last year. You have good battery life, which has always been the case for these itel devices. The build quality is something I really appreciate from a budget smartphone like this one. And the number of accessories you get for this affordable smartphone is not something you can see on top-end devices, and especially for the price you pay. So for the price at which you get this device, the S18, I don't think this is a bad buy, and this is definitely something I would recommend for this price. Yeah, I would recommend this smartphone. If you want to see a similarly priced device from itel, check out this video on the P38 Pro here. I'm gonna catch you guys in the next one. Cuidado.